In our gospel reading for this Sunday, Mary and Joseph, the proud parents of a newborn baby, make their way to the temple in Jerusalem to dedicate Jesus to God. And they do this in obedience to God's instruction given many years before to Moses, set out in Exodus 13, that all firstborn male children are to be dedicated to God. Also, there is a purification rite and a sacrifice to be offered in obedience to the law following the birth of a child, and that you can read about in Leviticus 12. And so Mary and Joseph walk the 8 kilometers between Bethlehem and Jerusalem to comply with the law of God. There's something wonderfully appealing about this kind of simple, faithful obedience, isn't there? It seems that we now live in a world where we resist being told what to do. At least I know that my own knee-jerk reaction to being told to do anything by my government or by my bank, even by my church sometimes, is to question it. Is this really necessary? I don't feel like walking all the way to Jerusalem. Can't I just send an email instead? Our world says, you do you. Do what feels right for you. Find your own personal way. But here is a couple who simply do what they understand to be the right thing to do based on the scriptures. Mary and Joseph are devout and faithful. And in Jerusalem they meet two other devout and faithful people. First, Simeon, who we are told is a good, God-fearing man who clearly walks very closely to God. Luke tells us that the Holy Spirit was with Simeon, and that the Spirit had promised Simeon that he would not die before he saw God's Messiah. And on that particular day, the Spirit had led Simeon to the temple. So here is a glimpse into the life of a man who is faithful and obedient, who has learned over time to recognize the prompting of God's Spirit. Simeon obeys this nudge from God, makes his way to the temple, and then speaks his thanks and his prophecy over the child. On the same day, in fact, Luke makes the point that it's at the very same hour, Mary and Joseph also meet Anna, elderly widow who has spent all her time in the temple, worshipping God, fasting and praying. And she too walks closely enough with God that she recognizes Jesus and comes over to speak to the family. What a remarkable day in Jerusalem for Mary and Joseph. They must have made their way back home from the temple, pondering all that had happened, all that had been said. There is a sense, isn't there, of everyone having been in just the right place at just the right time for all of these meetings and conversations to take place. Conversations, incidentally, that would provide strength and encouragement to Mary and Joseph over the years to come. Except that these were not random meetings. Mary and Joseph were in the right place at the right time because they were faithful and obedient. Simeon and Anna were in the right place at the right time because they too were faithful and obedient. What takes place in the temple moves from coincidence to God incidence. As you and I prepare to head into a new year, and maybe for us a time of thinking about how we intend to live in this next year, this is a passage that calls us back to simple faithfulness and obedience. And our hope is that, like Mary and Joseph, Simeon and Anna, we too will sense that God walks closely to us, speaks clearly to us. We are also open, listening, obeying. God bless you as you head into 2020.